Hello. Today we're going to be talking about Claude Code as automation. I dove head deep into Claude Code a few weeks ago. Got completely lost at some point, just kind of building wildly. I really didn't expect Claude Code to be as good as it is at doing what it's been doing. If you don't really know what Claude Code is, here's a quick kind of run through as to what it does. Effectively, it's this unopinionated coding assistant. It runs in the terminal. It's very versatile. There's a CLI interface effectively here. There is a IDE extension that you can kind of hook it into Cursor or any of these other IDEs. It comes with a GitHub action, and so you can kind of talk to Claude as a bot, and it can go do code reviews for you. And then because Claude is kind of running in the CLI anyway, it can also run in a headless mode. And so you can actually execute commands directly against it. And so it's a really interesting environment that Claude Code has kind of built here. There's a terminal that I use, and it's warp.dev. One of the things that they announced very early on in what they were building was AI kind of in your terminal. And when I thought about that, my first impression was like, I don't spend that much time in the terminal. I'm building apps and building stuff. I'm familiar with terminal. I'm comfortable in terminal, but I just don't really love spending all my time there. And so when Warp had kind of presented this to me months ago, it just didn't seem like having these kind of agents running in your terminal really made that much sense. And so I really just was very dismissive of kind of this idea in general. And that carried through for, months of Claude Code usage. However, when Claude 4 came out, Claude got a major kind of push that really changed kind of the landscape pretty dramatically for what it was capable of doing and how it could work. Like, I wasn't really using Claude Code at the time, so I don't know how that changed things, but I know the result. And the result is this kind of Claude Code experience that a lot of people are really vibing with. And so the way I see Claude Code evolving effectively is it's creating this like natural language automation, which we're going to talk about today. I effectively think of that as like N8N without steps. It's kind of built around your machine, your context, your environment. It's able to just kind of think through that with a little bit of kind of guidance as to like what is available on your system. Through that, it can kind of intelligently work through problems on its own. It can kind of go perform some action, come back to you, tell you how things went. And it's kind of only at those points where when it's coming back, do you really need to like think through, okay, well, what is this doing or how's it working? And that's been interesting for me. I again, unexpected. I didn't expect to find Claude Code as useful as it has been. Even in the last week, Gemini came out, and Gemini is a new CLI, an open source agent. And it's effectively similar to Claude Code, but it has a very generous free tier. And honestly, if you're interested in kind of the ideas about what these tools can do, Gemini is a great place to start. Because Claude Code actually requires pricing. You need to be on a pro or a max tier in order to be able to access the Claude Code tools. Because of that, it has this kind of barrier to entry. And so I think Gemini is a nice place to start. However, like, I have some reservations. I've kind of seen what Gemini can do. I've used 2.5 Pro for a while now, and I have a really pretty good feeling of how it works. From my experience, Gemini is really good at architecting. It's really good at kind of understanding a landscape and coming up with a plan, but it's very bad at execution against that plan. I just have seen it kind of overthink and underthink and kind of miss the main point when you try and get it to just execute on a task. Whereas Claude has been my kind of daily worker already inside of Cursor for just like executing on a plan. So it's pretty easy to bring up Claude. You just type in Claude. You can just kind of send it a message. What bookmarks do I have for agentic coding and I could give it some file, bookmarks. So I'll go to this bookmarks file here. So what it can do here is I'm giving it a task, what bookmarks do I have? And I'm giving it some context. I'm giving it a file that I want it to look through. It's using a tool called read, where it's going to be able to read through that file and figure out what bookmarks are in that file. And so now it's going to give me a kind of view of this. So there's some complete coding solutions, some code review solutions, some code generation solutions, and then there's some agentic tools, effectively, that are kind of related to that. So these are all just bookmarks that I have in my system. I could say, add a bookmark to this file for, and then, what's like a aider, maybe. Let's go for aider. I've heard a lot of things about aider. So we'll go ahead and grab that link, and I'm just going to give it this URL. I'm not really telling it how to add this. Based on the URL and what aider is, it actually already kind of knows some context around it. I'll use this script. Now, I could say, just check online what aider is first. I gave it the link. It adds some knowledge context that the model has been trained on what aider is, right? But it is kind of making an assumption there about how aider works. And you can already kind of see how interesting the system is. I'm giving it kind of a very generic task. I'm not giving it a lot of specifics about how it should perform this task, but it is kind of looking at the files I'm giving it, the context in those files, the environment that I have, and it is using that to define how it should run. This is going to fail because my CD is kind of messed up here, so I'm going to go ahead and let that first one fail. I've given it some hints in the environment, though, about how to fix this. I'm using Zoxide, so it has to kind of do some stuff here. But it is going to go into my personal folder, and then it's going to run this script that I've generated, which is the adding a bookmark. It's going to give it a name. It's going to link to the specific link for the website, and then it is going to give it a description. And so when I add this, you'll see it ran that script and it did a bunch of things. And so if I expand this with Control R, you'll see it created a bookmark file. It added it to this uncategorized section in my bookmarks, and the bookmark was added. And so now it says, cool, great, I've added that to your bookmarks. It's now in the uncategorized section. So this is great. Eventually you'll come up with a workflow that you really like. In my case, it's adding bookmarks to my Obsidian Vault. So what I've done actually is I've done this enough. I've added several bookmarks to the point where I actually had a repeatable process that I wanted to develop. And so what I did was I added a custom command, which is add bookmark. And so now I'm going to add a bookmark for this link. Effectively, I'm just going to give it the link here. It's add bookmark is the name of the custom command that I've developed. And so it's like, great, I'm going to add this to your vault. I'm going to go look up this website. I've laid out kind of an automation here that just is run off of this command called add bookmark. And I'll even show you what this command looks like. There is a add new bookmark to Obsidian Vault. I give it some arguments, and it follows a set of steps. And these steps are not code, right? I'm kind of telling it what to run. I have created a script here to run, but a lot of these things are like, analyzing content, suggesting appropriate sections, have the user choose a section, move the bookmark, organize it, right? It's just natural language. It's not coding anything here. Now I'm kind of doing the same steps that we already did before, right? I'm adding this aider to our bookmarks file, but now I'm running this with this script. So it's like, hey, cool, I've added it based on this contents. Where should it go, right? Should it go into AI coding agents, AI development tools, or development tools, right? And I'm like, okay, coding agents. That makes most sense for me. And so now it's going to be like, okay, great. Let me move that bookmark to the right spot. And so it's going to remove it from the uncategorized section. It's going to add it to that agent section, and it's going to update the file with the correct tags and metadata, right? And this is a very passive process for me now. Now, when I want to organize my bookmarks, I can just trigger this command, and it's going to go off and move these things around, right? And so you can see here, it's editing the file. It's going to be adjusting that here. Now it's going to go and update the file with the correct tags. And so we'll see it happen here too. So we've got our tags here. It's going to add those additional tags that make sense. Perfect. And then it's going to go through one final step here of updating the section information in the actual file. If we click open and warp, you can see this is the file that we've created, and we've got all these details here that were created for that file. So that looks pretty great. It went through and just created that bookmark for us just very naturally, which is amazing. So Claude has this amazing potential for building these processes, right? It has so many aspects to Claude Code. We go through a sequence of steps here, basically, when I've been automating things with Claude Code. What I'll do is I'll first just work through some tasks. And then I'll go through and I will work on discovering a process. I'll find some process and I'll, ensure I can repeat it. Ensure that this process that I'm doing in Claude Code is a repeatable process. And then the next step is I'll create a new command. I'll actually have it create its own command for doing something. And, for that, I'll actually have it read the docs on commands to do it. And then, we'll tweak the command and then I will start a new instance of Claude to test. So this is the step-by-step process that I will go through when I'm working on automating something with Claude Code. And this just starts to happen. Like I'm at the point now where there are some development processes that I just do every day that Claude just automates for me. I'll kind of get through working through a task. I'll go to put up a PR, and all of the steps to create that PR are pretty much fully automated. Like there's not a lot that I want to be involved with. When I first look at a review, we'll kind of queue up that context with an automation as well. When I'll start creating a task to do some work for BennyChat or something else, I'll talk with Claude and I'll go through an automation for creating the task, right? And so these kind of common sets of repeatable processes that you regularly repeat are now something that you can very much be aided by a tool like this. So let's take a look at a quick example here of a task you might want to go through. Say you've got a bunch of documents. Say you've got all these PDFs from a bunch of different vendors, right? Some of them have been paid, some of them haven't. There's amounts on each one for different services and things that you've paid for. But you just have this big folder every week or every couple of weeks. And you've been dropping all of your invoices in here to get through them at the end of the week. And just at some point, you really just need to get through these invoices. This is a perfect example of something that you might start to need to automate. What I'll start to do is I'll start to say, hey, okay, I've got these, PDFs that exist for each of these different vendors. Can you find the names of each of these vendors and kind of count them up for me? And so it'll say, okay, there's 40 invoices across 6 vendors. And it'll just use it'll create a task for finding the vendors, and it'll kind of go through calling some tools to try and figure that out. It spends about 5 minutes doing that, right? That's a pretty great process for me. I'll kind of go through and I'll ask it again, okay, well, some of these invoices haven't been paid, some have. Can you help me find the invoices that haven't been paid, right? Some of them have this paid status on them, right? They have this paid thing right here. Some of them have, some of them haven't. Can you help me find those? And so you can see here, it's going to try and figure out how to do that task for me. It's going to start thinking about this task, right? It wants to start extracting this payment status. It wants to sort of identify which of these invoices have been paid, calculate, summarize, right? So it kind of finds itself a process about how it's going to do this. And it goes through for about 4 minutes, just kind of thinking through how to do that. And at the end, it'll give me a result. Now, I know I've kind of looked through it myself and I'm like, hey, I know you came up with this result and it looks good, but it's not right. There's actually only 4 that should be showing as unpaid. I actually used Claude to generate all these scripts. So I've actually created a little script generation file, and you can see here's the kind of details about how those invoices were generated. So I know that there's actually 4 unpaid invoices. I think your script is wrong. I think what you've done isn't actually correct. So it'll go back and it'll kind of think, it'll be like, okay, cool, you're right. Let me re-examine how these PDFs work. It'll, re-examine the PDFs. It'll kind of fix the scripts. And then, it goes through a process to kind of think through that. And eventually it'll kind of write a script potentially. And then it says, okay, great. There's only 4 invoices that are unpaid. All of them are for one specific vendor, and the total outstanding is this amount. I've created a repeatable process, but I've also needed to validate it. So now I'm at the point where I'm ready, though, to create this Claude script. So, okay, great. Let's create a Claude custom command to repeat this process whenever we need to. Save the command to, and we're going to do dot Claude commands get outstanding invoices.md. And we're going to grab the link for the common workflows, which includes this custom slash commands section here, which describes sort of how you write these custom slash commands. And so what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to give it that file to define our custom command. So I've given it the context of what a command is, how it should work. I've given it the place I want the command to go. I've given it the file I want it to look at. It's going to go off and fetch from Anthropic that kind of details about how to write a good custom command. And it's going to then bring that back, and using kind of this workflow that we've already gone through, it's going to start thinking about how to make a good custom command for this. So here it goes. It's making this directory, and now we're going through writing this file. So it wrote 19 lines to Claude Code. I'm just auto-accepting edits here. And it knows what script it's been running to do this. It wrote this script. I haven't even looked at the script, right? And so now it says, okay, now you can use this command anytime by typing get outstanding invoices to analyze all invoices. I don't think that syntax exists, but it was an interesting thought. And oh, you can actually filter by a specific vendor. That's actually really cool. I did not know that. So let's actually take a quick look at this file. I'm going to open this in Warp, and so we can actually see, analyze all PDFs and documents, determine status, use this. The script will do these sorts of things. If the user provides vendor name via arguments, filter the results to show outstanding invoices. I think this might work. We will see. The way that I've done it previously is I kind of have a section for arguments that is kind of separate, but this may work as well. So let's give it a try. So I'm going to open up a new window. We've created our Claude custom command here. I'm going to open up a new window. I'm going to hit Claude, and we are in this automation demo. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, great, I'm going to go get outstanding invoices. So without giving it any context of what's happened in this conversation, all the Claude conversations exist in separate spaces. It's going to now run this Python script, right, to be able to understand which invoices are unpaid. It got a quick summary of the unpaid invoices, and then it gave me that summary pretty much directly. It's pretty good. It's just running this script to kind of figure that out. And then I can say, okay, what vendor have we paid the most to? Now I'm asking a very different question, right? But it kind of has the context of like, okay, I know that there are invoices. I know that there's this script that's running. So Claude may now create a new script. Yep, exactly what it did. It's going to run a bash command here. And it says, okay, well, there's some errors here. I can give it a hint now, hey, let's look at an existing one, which is this analyze invoices, because it's working on vendor payments, to see how it finds the totals, right? We did have a way to find the totals before, so I'm going to give it this other script just so it has some context for maybe how to write a good script, right? So there are some times where I have noticed that with Claude, you need to kind of it'll get stuck in kind of a local space of thinking, and you do kind of need to kick it out of that space sometimes just for it to kind of think a little bit differently here. So now it's figuring out the vendor payments, and it now knows paid versus unpaid, how much different people have been paid in the past. And so now it's giving me this. And, without us having to write a sort function or something like that, right? You can see the core data was unsorted. Claude's just going to go ahead and sort that data for us. Now, this is all pretty amazing. What Claude can do, how it works, how it builds automations. It's seriously incredible what's possible with Claude. And this is why I've been a bit quiet for a couple weeks, because I've just been really figuring out how this all works together, and what it's really helpful for. Now, on Stable Discussion, we talk about a ton of different topics. We're always focused on figuring out how to leverage different tools. We're interested in what pragmatically helps you. And at this point, we really think Claude Code is pragmatically helpful. It doesn't turn somebody who's a non-programmer into a programmer necessarily, but it acts as sort of a supplementary tool, right? It can do a lot for you. We look at situations like this. We aren't going to be the fastest to coming up with an opinion, but when we do come up with an opinion, it's often very nuanced and sort of from our experience, right? So we're definitely going to keep talking about Claude Code. If you're interested in sort of like what we talk about, we have a bunch of the latest articles about what we're working on and how we're thinking through things. And so we would love to see you hop in there and see if some of these concepts resonate with you. Additionally, we have our own Discord. It's a paid Discord space where we have a private community there of interested AI enthusiasts. And joining that also gives you access to Benny Chat, which is our chat interface that we've been building out for managing tasks and kind of working with tasks with Obsidian. So if that's interesting to you, and if you're interested in kind of learning more about our takes on AI, would love to see you over there. As always, we love subscribes, we love likes. Those help us out and just keep this process going. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.